smoking too, sipping and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all. That sounds like a party just about to start, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. It's a big show today. Big show.
Man, look at all these bottles up here.
It's show number 420. So originally, for show 420, we thought because that's the weed code for
the reference
for time,
right.
for time to go smoke. We thought we'll just do a whole show with like THC beverages, and then I thought.
But then we'd have to do a whole show with THC beverages.
Exactly, because we really haven't found a lot of those that we like yet. So
it tastes kind of not so good.
We've tried some of them, but some are better than others. But no, we thought, what should we do? Well, we should do tequila. And so because of that, we want to welcome back, and I'm just going to break the tie right now, because our favorite guest on the show was a tie between our guest today, Liliana Rodriguez, and Chris Morris whenever he gets a new job. But the problem is we can't have Chris Morris on every time he gets a new job because we wouldn't have room for any other guests. So I'm just going to break the tie and announce that Liliana is in fact our favorite guest ever on the show.
Thank
and
you.
The music came up
just
to
Chris a hard time.
I'm so excited about having Liliana on, and before the show I want you to know that she asked me to please not refer to her as a tequila expert.
Yes.
Because she doesn't feel comfortable with that label. And Liliana, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna roll with that. We won't refer to you as our tequila expert. Liliana is in fact our agave expert here on the show. So
how about a tequila enthusiast?
Look, that's too broad because
Yeah.
I'm enthusiastic about tequila.
Yes, well,
Right,
there's that.
right, but I'm definitely not an expert. So no, we like to call her an expert because honestly, she knows more about tequila than anyone I know. And I will also mention we get more positive feedback on shows that Liliana is on than any other shows that we do. We've done 419 up until today.
Wow.
And she has been our listeners' favorite guest. So
Yes.
I just want to tell you how excited I am that she's back on the show. And she brought tequila, which is, that just makes
Which is a beautiful thing.
makes my heart happy. She's brought some expressions where she's got one of the regular bottles and then a bottle of that same spirit in the Cristalino. And we're going to do a little taste testing.
The Cazadores
in
here?
comparison. Yeah, the Cazadores. And then also some Codiga,
fun.
which is George Strait's tequila, celebrity tequila, which, we've had Codiga on the show before. It's pretty good. Mm-hmm. So we'll get pretty excited about trying those out later. And we also have some other. Ian brought an interesting agave spirit today. What is this called?
My brother brought this to me from Tucson, where he lives, when he came in for Christmas. Is the Bacanora? I don't know a whole lot about it. He said it's interesting, and it's a very it's made in like one specific place. Right?
Sonora.
Thankfully,
And
we have an agave expert on the show who can tell us about it. Right?
yeah.
I feel like that guy. What's that Antique Roadshow? What do I have here?
Right.
Please explain what this is.
And then I brought something else that may be interesting. I haven't tried it yet, but it is the from the guys. It's Sammy Hagar and Guy Fieri, the spiky-haired cooking guy, and it's their Santo line, which has tequilas in it. But this is called they call it a mezquila. It's apparently a combination of tequila and mezcal.
Can I just say something about what that is? To me, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to see Guy Fieri and Sammy Hagar testing and just sitting there drinking a bunch of tequila and what that conversation was like.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've always been a fan of Sammy Hagar since before the Van Halen days, and I've always liked him.
Red Rocker.
And I loved his original tequila, which was Cabo, a Cabo Wabo tequila, which he ultimately sold. So.
Yeah.
So this is his second venture into
That
the
was
tequila space.
That was an earlier one because that came out in what?
It was
the
it was back
90s or
when there
early
weren't
2000s.
nearly as many tequilas
Right.
out there and available.
He was a bit ahead of that, and it was a good tequila.
That bottle, that añejo of that, I haven't had one since he sold it, but from before, man, that was good. So hopefully they haven't messed it up like the big corporations
96.
can sometimes do.
96 was that early. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so lots of exciting stuff. And if we have time, which we might not, we have some beers to try. If we get to them, 903 Brewers Amber 11. It's their Amber Ale. They're from Sherman, Texas. And from Phoenix, Arizona. And Roses by the Stairs Brewing Company. Great name. We'll try their Rollercoaster Favorite Ride, which is a double dry hopped hazy IPA. And from Aslin Beer Company in, I didn't write down where they were. I think it may be California. We'll figure it out. They're Clifton barrel-aged Imperial Stout. So if we get to all of that.
If not, you know what we're doing next week.
Yeah, that's right. Plus, we have a couple of our regular features here on the program. We will have both drinking news, and that's in the second hour of the show. And our drinking news teaser headline for today is Bath Bombs and Spider Monkeys. That ought to get you listening through to the second hour of the show.
Yeah.
Also,
That's confusing.
Also, we'll bring you the drinking fact here in a few moments, and the drinking fact teaser headline is Hold my beer while I put on lederhosen. That may not keep you listening for the next few minutes, but we'll.
I didn't know I was supposed to wear pants.
We'll try to get to that. Ian has brought a substance which is clear. Is this a Cristalino?
No.
Okay, well, it's time to explore it, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the Beverage of Mystery. So, Beverage of Mystery is where the only one in the room who knows what the beverage is the person what brung it.
And smoky. Just so you know, I haven't tried this yet myself.
Oh, okay, it's very, very interesting. So,
I smell agave.
yeah, it makes me think mezcal maybe not quite as smoky as your typical mezcal.
It does, because it smells smoky.
Smoky.
A Satol, maybe?
It's sweeter than I imagined.
Definitely get the smoke, on the palate when you sip it.
A little spicy.
The
a little
retrohale on this
Yeah.
really gives away a lot more of the flavors, I think.
Yeah. It does open it up on the retro hail.
I like this.
I do too.
What are we dealing with here, Ian? Or as I like to ask, is that a beverage of mystery in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Well, it's funny you should ask.
It's actually in his ukulele case, but so is this a mezcal?
I'll let you decipher this because you can probably say those words much better than I can.
Yes, it is mezcal.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what they call a mezcal curado. It means in the later stages, they put an additional item. It's interesting. They can use fruits, but in this case, they used a little bit of chicken.
Chicken?
What?
Yeah,
It's
it
chicken
says-
mezcal?
Yeah, it's distilled with pechuga. That's the chicken breast.
Wow.
And another one of there's many
Smoky and a little
buzzwords,
meaty.
but
Yeah, wow.
artisanal. You know
Yeah,
what that means? That means that they strictly adhere to the original methods.
Okay,
They
right.
haven't modernized.
It's handcrafted.
They might use the big rock to smash the agave cores after they cook them.
How cool.
So, yeah. Anyways, and it says 100% maguey. Maguey is another name for agaves, but it doesn't tell you which species.
Okay.
But there are many to make magueys.
I like the
There's
idea of
Espadín and many others. Augustofolia.
So it actually does tell you on here, state, region, village, agave variety.
Is it in Oaxaca? Is it made in Oaxaca?
Yeah, it has all this right here. It's very small.
I love the idea.
Oaxaca. Okay.
I love the idea of them smashing the agave with a rock. It reminds me of my favorite seafood restaurant in the world. Is it's actually a boat. It's completely docked, so it doesn't travel. But it's in the Boston Harbor, and it's called the Barking Crab. And it basically is just this boat that they put picnic tables all over the boat. And you go in and you order a lobster, and they bring you the lobster on a paper plate, and they bring you a rock. And that's how you
Wow.
grab
That's how you do
a
it.
lobster.
So this is interesting because it says, okay, the cutting, they used a machete. Cooking, concave stone oven, crushing stone mill,
Yeah, the
fermentation.
Tahona. That's the name for the
Yeah,
stone.
Tahona.
Tahona.
and then natural process in pine wood vats for fermentation, natural ambient yeast, copper stills, double distills with fruits and roasted turkey breasts to be specific.
Oh, they put
Turkey.
turkey,
Oh.
but look at the above, and it says pechuga. Pechuga.
And that's chicken.
Well,
Or
that's news to me. I didn't know now they were using turkey as well.
Well, that's
In the old days when I visited Oaxaca factories, the small mom and pop things, they were only using chicken. So
well, this is interesting, and this is the perfect beverage to serve at Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I thought it was incredibly interesting. It's also pretty good.
Yeah,
Like,
it
I
really
like
is.
it.
I like it.
But
So
do
does
you
it tequila?
taste? Do you taste?
So in the retro
The
hail,
chicken or
and
the
in
turkey?
the
No.
aftertaste,
Yeah.
I get a little bit of that. But in the
There's-
retro hail, there's a kind of meaty thing. I would
There's
not.
some savory.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to say, "Hey, that's turkey." I wouldn't like. I
can
don't think
tell.
it's that distinct. But there's kind of a meaty flavor to it, and especially after you take a sip and then gently breathe out of your nose, you pick up a lot of that smoke and that meaty kind of savory thing. That,
But you don't
kinda
think you
dig
are
it.
influenced by reading about it, and now it puts those flavors in your mouth?
well, I was getting that
I bet.
before we
Or-
talked about
Yeah.
this. I was
Oh,
getting that
okay.
smoky and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about tequila. Tequila is a type of mezcal.
Okay.
Mezcal was the original.
Mezcal is the larger.
Is this actually tequila from Jalisco, or is this not tequila? It's just mezcal.
It's just mezcal.
No, this is
Okay.
mezcal, and mezcal is made in the state of Oaxaca.
Okay.
And tequila is only made
And-
by one plant, Agave, Tequilana, Weber, and mezcal is made by about 10, 12
Right. There's
different,
all these other different
agaves.
iterations of agave. Yeah. yeah
So
for
all
sure.
tequila is mezcal, but not
But
all
all
mezcal is tequila.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, remember that'll be our phrase going forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
All tequila is mezcal, but not
This
all.
is kind of like the
mezcal is
champagne,
tequila.
the
Yeah.
difference between champagne and sparkling
And
wine.
sparkling wine, right? If it didn't come from that particular
Yeah.
region of France where the grapes were grown, then it can't actually be called
Exactly.
champagne. So that makes sense. Terry, do we have time for the drinking
Yeah,
fact?
we do, actually.
All right.
Yes,
well,
yes.
let's
All right.
let's
Well, that
open this
sounds good.
bad boy up and bring you the drinking fact for today.
And now it's time for another smoking and toasting drinking fact. Almost missed the button.
Just so you know, Liliana, that fanfare is the only reason we do this particular feature because we just love that. We love that fanfare. So I'll have Terry play it again at the
Yes.
end of the drinking fact. Today's drinking fact: the largest beer festival in the world is Oktoberfest in Munich, where they serve around 7 million liters of beer every year.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Now, while we know the amount of beer served at the festival, its founders have never been able to successfully count the number of pairs of lederhosen that are worn during the festivities.
Or
So
not.
that is still a mystery. And there is your drinking fact. So. See how that worked out? Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, a lot to do. I know Ian had something interesting to smoke. We'll get to that in just a moment. Plus more about tequila and agave spirits coming up with our special guest, Liliana Rodriguez. It is Smoking and Toasting. We'll be right back. Welcome Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It is show number 420, and we are joined by our agave expert, Liliana Rodriguez. She doesn't like being called an expert, but let me just say it this way. She knows more about agave, spirits, and tequila than anybody that I know personally.
Yes.
And I know people in the industry. So she's way more tequila savvy than they are. And she's going to tell us a little bit more about, there's a lot going on in the world of tequila and agave right now. She's going to tell us about that, give us a breakdown on some other things. We'll try some more agave spirits. But first, Ian, I was wondering if you had an opportunity to smoke anything interesting this week.
I went outside yesterday evening. Mm-hmm. It was a little chilly outside, so I lit up my my table. Has out of a little fire table with a little fire ring.
Did you light the chimenea?
And I lit the chimenea.
I love the chimenea.
The chimenea is pretty
so
nice.
cool.
So I have a medium-sized chimney. I don't have a big one anymore because it finally cracked and had to go away. But the medium-sized one is doing just fine so far.
Good.
I lit up a Rojas Statement Maduro.
Interesting.
This is a Corona 6.5 by 46 is the size with the Mexican San Andreas wrapper. Nicaraguan binder and Nicaraguan filler. The appearance on this, the outside wrapper is espresso brown, oily, semi-rustic with some veins going through it, leathery, firm feel overall, black and gold bands. One is the Rojas band, and then the other one just says Statement on it. The pre-light sniff on this, I got barnyard and earth, malt and coffee, chocolate at the foot, very chocolatey at the foot. The pre-light draw, I had the perfect punch. You ever do the punch on a cigar and it's perfect?
Yes,
like it's perfectly centered.
Perfectly. Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty. There's a picture of it right here. I did the perfect punch. It had a medium draw. It's very fruity and sweet with a mocha note. And then I lit it up. This has a Nicaraguan pepper blast.
Bow.
Yeah. With black pepper, red pepper, peppery pepper, and pepper. It was
and a little pepper thrown in
all
for
the
good
kinds
measure.
of pepper.
Yeah.
pepper. And leather on the lips.
Okay.
Did I mention pepper?
Yeah, I think you did. Yes.
Retrohale is a Nicaraguan pepper blast.
The retrohale is an
Retrohale make
NPD.
your eyes water a little bit at the beginning of this.
Wow. Love it.
like if you ever had just a little too much wasabi,
Mm-hmm.
So the retrohale is Nicaraguan pepper blast with a kiss of wood and chocolate. The first third on this, once the pepper blast eases back, and it does, it eases back pretty quickly actually. Sweet chocolate and espresso notes rush forward to fill in the space. A dark fruity undertone with an oaky character weaves throughout. Retrohale is peppery and cedar. Flaky ash, perfect burn. It's strange because the flavors while I'm smoking are oak, but then the aftertaste of the wood is a little more cedar. So it's an interesting thing. Proposed pairing, I did the whiskey sniff. 1792 single barrel is what won.
Oh, nice.
And it was quite good.
Wow.
At the second third of this, a meaty note sneaks in, combining with the chocolate creates a mole kind of note, which was absolutely delicious. Backed by cedar and rich earth, the retrohale is sweet pepper and cedar, flaky ash, perfect burn. The last third of this mole eases back a little and settles into an espresso and bitter chocolate with sweet dark fruit and cedar.
This sounds like my kind of cigar.
A bit like a dessert after the main course. Yeah. The retrohale is sweet pepper and baking spices, flaky ash, perfect burn. This cigar retails for about $10.
Okay.
At $10, I'm going to give it a 5.5.
Okay.
I got this cigar online. I think I ended up paying in the $5 or slightly less range for it. A solid 7.
Yeah.
Outrageous. I will be buying these all day long.
So for those of you who are not familiar with our ranking, our price to quality ranking, it's a 1 to 10 scale, but a 5 means you got what you paid for. If it ranks above a 5, it means it's punching a little above its weight class. And so, yeah, if you got that for $5 online, I bet that does sound like it would be.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. I'll just be buying bundles or boxes as it comes.
I'm going to watch this show.
And it's a full strength cigar. It's
I want to watch the show so I know what to look for when I'm out there. That sounds like sounds like my
really
kind of thing. Sounds like my kind of thing. I love it. Want to say a quick shout out to our guest last week. Sorry, Michael, you're not our favorite guest, she's here with us today. But you're one of our favorites. And
Sorry, Michael.
Michael Duckworth from True Anomaly Brewing.
He's always fantastic.
Is always a lot of fun. And he was on last week's show. If you miss it, be sure to catch it. But our guest this week, Liliana, we refer to her as our agave expert. She protests, but then she schools us on agave in a way that nobody else that I know does. And you were mentioning something to me during the break that you thought was important that we talk about agave-wise. Is that right?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of tequila, which is
going crazy right now.
Going crazy. Well, agaves, I can tell you, they were first described by Linnaeus in the 1700s, and he called them the wonder plant.
I agree with him.
And also the word agave from the Greek agavo means noble and admirable.
Oh.
And people also call agaves in Mexico plants that give you a lot but ask for very little.
Yeah, I love that.
Because they, to grow them, pretty much people rely on Mother Nature. There's no irrigation systems or anything like that.
Okay, so we're going to talk a lot more about that, but I just wanted to mention it was really kind of around the beginning of the cold season here. But I said to my wife, I really want to get an agave. I wonder where we can get one. She's like, well, why don't we text Liliana? So she did, and Liliana told me. And so in the spring, I'm going to buy an agave plant for my balcony, and I'm so excited about having it. So I don't know what I'm going to call it. May just call it George Strait. We'll take a break. Speaking of George Strait, we have some of his tequila here. We'll get into trying that next. It's Smoking a Toast. Nice. Very nice. Welcome back at Smoking a Toast. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Hello to our radio audience. And a reminder, when we talk about a picture of something, if you're listening on the radio, you can find us on YouTube, and our video version will be there, and you can go back and look to see what Ian's Perfect Punch looked like, for example. So we'll get to that in a minute. I had an interesting cigar this week. I want to tell you about this one, Ian. I had the Sin Compromiso Seleccion number 5 Parejo, which is a mouthful, but it's a Toro size cigar, and it's from Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. It's a smaller boutique cigar company. Came onto the scene in 2015, and by 3 years later, they had released what they called their best ever, the Sin Compromiso Seleccion number 5. Now, Sin Compromiso is Spanish for no compromise. And as far as Dunbarton is concerned, this is the cigar that they want to hang their hat on. So if cigars wore hats. Or were something that you
cigar hats.
Hang things on. But that's not important right now. The Sin Compromiso is a very good-looking cigar, as you'll see here if you're watching the video. Chocolate brown outer wrapper, box-pressed, a cedar sleeve over the bottom half, and a black and tan band that looks like some kind of long-lost religious icon. In fact, it looks very much like... Where's that Código bottle? It looks very much like that. Not exactly, but very much like that. So it's very similar to it. The Seleccion number 5 uses a dark San Andres wrapper, a binder leaf that is a hybridized Ecuador Habano known as a thin ligero. And the filler tobacco is Nicaraguan. It was rolled out the Joya de Nicaragua factory in Nicaragua, of course. I was anxious to taste this beauty, so I snipped the cap with my V-cutter and started checking it out. Leather, cedar, and a light smokiness were the first things I detected on the pre-light sniff. The cold draw added a hint of berry sweetness. So I toasted the foot with my lighter, took my initial puffs. Spice and coffee were the first notes to establish themselves. But what I began to notice more and more as it smoked was a very pleasant minerality that stayed on the tongue in the center of the palate after the finish on the cigar. The second third brought a chocolatey cocoa powder note to the mix with a hint of vanilla, and that minerality actually bumped up a notch. And around the midpoint is where a black pepper note became more noticeable, confirming to me that this was actually Nicaraguan tobacco. tobacco in the blend. Final third, cocoa powder, cedar, leather, and the mineral note that reminds me of the flavor on the finish of a nice Glenmorangie 10-year. You know, that minerality on the finish there, which, by the way, is what I would recommend for a pairing on this. I think this would also work with something smoky, too, like a La Luna Artisanal Mezcal.
Oh, nice.
So since we're talking Mezcal today, I'd also mention that the Sin Compromiso Seleccion number 5 smoked nice and slow. I got over an hour and a half out of the Toro size, which never burned hot, never got harsh at all the way to the nub. Construction was very solid, nice even burn lines, perfect draw, no issues as it smoked. The Seleccion number 5 was medium bodied, enough to get a little kick from the tobacco, but not quite in the medium to full range. Overall, a very enjoyable experience. I've read about how some of the tobacco was grown and specifically how it was primed and the leaves harvested, which was done to try to optimize the flavor in the leaves that they used. I can understand it's a pretty labor-intensive process, and that may have contributed to the cigar's price tag, which is pretty substantial.
That's significant, yes.
Yeah, the Sin Compromiso Seleccion number 5 is a $17 to $18 cigar. I think I actually paid $18.95 for the one that I purchased. Now, I'd be tempted to say that it doesn't quite stand up to being, say, twice the price of an A.J. Fernandez San Lotano Requiem, but I really did enjoy the smoking experience. So, based on its kind of unique flavor profile and the excellent construction, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 5. I really did enjoy it. Worth it, but buy an individual stick and make sure that you think it's worth it before you invest in a box. And yes, I consider anything over $200 for a box of cigars an investment.
Yes.
Yeah. So your actual returns may vary.
But you know, part of that too
it.
is the length of the smoke on that is notable, considering a lot of cigars will go 45 minutes or not quite an hour.
Even for a Toro, sometimes you're done in like 45 minutes. But this one smoked really slow, smoked cool. In other words, it didn't get too hot, burning through, and probably why it lasted as long as it did. But anyway, loved it. Recommend it. It's one to treat yourself with, I think, and definitely an $18, $19 cigar. That's a treat.
And from what you mentioned a while ago, that's your best score, right? For a cigar?
A 5 means you got what you pay for. So we can score things above a 5, but that means it may have been worth even more than what you paid. And it's going to be tough for an $18 cigar to get a score above a 5. It's happened. But it's tough. So.
Yeah, when you get into that price point, it needs to be a fantastic cigar.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
So Liliana, our agave expert, is with us here today. She's got so much information that I really want to get time to get into all of this. But before we do, we want to do a kind of a side-by-side. Terry, did I give you you have both of yours over there?
Yes, I have two over here. Yes.
We want to do a side-by-side of, and this is the Código, a side-by-side of the Reposado and the Cristalino. So what can you tell us about Cristalino? Obviously, it's a more clear, this is like a sort of a regular, straw, light brown tequila color, but a Cristalino is usually clear or very close to it. So I'm guessing it's been distilled more. Is that right?
No. I'm going to tell you what happens.
Okay.
The Cristalinos were first introduced since 2011 by Don Julio.
Fairly new thing, yes.
For their 70th anniversary, but it wasn't until 2023, only 2 years ago, that they started being introduced into the United States market.
Interesting, yeah.
And what happens is that they felt, I guess, the industry, that some people prefer a clear drink.
Well, if you think of like a vodka or a gin is a clear spirit, and vodka is, I think, the best selling of all the spirits right now. So,
I mean, clear Pepsi.
Well, you're right. that was
clear.
Crystal Pepsi.
Crystal Pepsi.
Oh, sorry.
It was Crystal. Oh, boy.
So let me tell you what they do. Of course, the Reposado aged 6 months or añejos a year or more, if it's extra añejos, have this beautiful golden color. It is removed by using activated charcoal.
Interesting.
That's what they use to remove the tannins and the color.
So they filter it through the activated charcoal?
Well, there's two methods, actually. One can be through filters that already have the charcoal, special filters. And the second method is by adding charcoal particles into the beverage and then
filtering them out.
Filtering them out. So it's another step.
And is that part of why it becomes more clear? The charcoal filters out the color?
It removes the color. But also, one interesting thing I found visiting one place that sells tequilas is that not always, but most of the times, a Cristalino is more expensive than even an añejo.
Because it's gone through more process.
More process.
More process.
But in this case, I found that some of the things we're going to taste, the prices were very close to one another.
Around the same. Well, it's interesting because I guess my big question about that would be, if we think about vodka, the more times you filter it or distill it, the more smooth it has a tendency to be, but also the more flavor neutral it has a tendency to be. It's kind of like it filters all the flavor out of there. Whereas if you taste a vodka that has not been distilled as many times, you get a little more of that sharpness. That's the flavor.
There can be a little bite to it.
Yeah, a little bite to it. But once they filter it out more often.
Yeah, so one of the things that happens as you filter that and you get less flavor, I think the alcohol in the spirit kind of tricks your tongue into
maybe thinking there's a flavor.
It's sweet.
Right.
Alcohol can do that a little bit on its own. Like this Pachuga Mezcal that we had just a little while ago, I think has a little bit of
deceptive sweetness.
A deceptive sweetness going on to it like that.
But Liliana, when they filter to take the color out, does it remove some of the flavor?
They claim that it doesn't, and they also claim that it actually keeps the sweetness of the drink. So we'll see. That's
we'll
why
try it
I
for
wanted
ourselves.
us to compare.
I love this.
So the first one we're going to taste is the Código, right? Tequila.
I may have short poured us a little bit. We may have to pass this bottle back around, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and go.
All right. Well, we have enough to at least taste, and then we'll try
He
it.
saw the amount of
taste
bottles and
first.
got scared.
We taste first and then tell you a little bit about it because
Sure, we can
there's
do
a
that.
lot of interesting things about this tequila.
So
Which
we're going to
should we
start with
taste
the
first?
Reposado, the more
Yeah.
golden one. Yeah.
Okay.
This is agave right on the nose, some
Yes.
pepper.
Some pepper for sure, but yeah, mostly agave on the
It's
nose.
just a nose of really good tequila.
And that's what I find with reposado. Sometimes with añejos, you'll start to pick up on the nose some of the, flavors from the aging and stuff. But a lot of times with reposado, and particularly with a blanco, you get mostly agave on the nose.
Lots of cooked agave and a little bit peppery.
Almost get a little bit of vanilla on the nose as well.
You do, and I will tell you, there's vanilla on this when you sip it
On
too.
the aftertaste, especially.
because I just did that, and
There
it's
is no heat to this.
kind of a big.
No,
I
but
know.
a beautiful pepper. Just
and
a little
there's
bit
a
of pepper that's
butteriness
really
to
nice.
the finish too.
Butteriness, a little bit of pepper on the mid palate, and then that finish is just wonderful vanilla. So this drinks a little more like an añejo to my taste buds.
But
anyway.
we're talking about, this is a reposado. It's aged only 6 months. Añejo comes from the word año. It means at least a year. And now we have the fabulous extra añejos. They store them for 3 years.
So I'll tell you a quick story. When the president announced a 25% tariff on Mexico that was supposed to go in effect like on Tuesday of a couple of weeks ago. So we record the show on Mondays usually. After the show, I was totally planning to go and buy a bottle of my absolute favorite tequila, Jose Cuervo Reserva de la Familia, the extra añejo, which is,
That would really be bad.
$160.
At
Yeah.
a tariff
So,
like that,
so
yeah.
25%
Yeah,
more.
25%,
Oh, no.
yeah,
I'm going to buy at least one bottle like the last day that I can. So I go and I buy it, and then they announce the tariffs were delayed for a month and might not ever
It's
happen.
not like it's not like you're ever gonna not need that bottle of tequila. So
yeah,
that's what's
in
good.
fact, I will admit I kind of may need another one now.
Tell me about the finish. What do you think? Because some connoisseurs have mentioned hints of chocolate.
You get any chocolate, Ian? I think more vanilla, but there's a little chocolate in there.
I can almost see it once you say it, but I was getting like before she said chocolate, I was getting a very buttery
for sure
kind of note, almost like a butter cookie kind of sweetness to it as well.
Like those Girl Scout butter cookies.
There's a little bit of sugar flavor, like natural sugar flavor, raw sugar flavor, like that's sneaking around in there too. I don't know that I would have penned chocolate right out of it, but
the pepper
really
kind of
nice.
balances that sugariness and still keeps it from like moving into rum territory. It still tastes like
it's
a tequila.
interesting because there's no real bite on this either. It leaves a little tingle on the back of the tongue.
Well, now I'm very
But
interested.
there's no real bite.
Well, I still have this flavor, on my palate. Very interested to try the Cristalino.
The second one, and then later I want to tell you some things about these tequilas.
So the Cristalino smells different.
Now, am I to expect that the Cristalino, since it's been through its process, might not, after tasting that strong one, might not be as strong now?
You might think that, but I don't know that that was my reaction to it.
Okay.
It has an interesting
It's
nose to it. There's almost
It's not as much of a nose as the other one, I believe.
there's almost a pine to the nose, like a woodier note to the nose.
My thought about this, and it's fairly consistent with other Cristalinos that I've tried, is that it does give you a wonderful sort of agave flavor. But what I miss compared to the other, in this case the Reposado, and it would likely be even more pronounced in an añejo or an extra añejo or añejo extra. I don't know which way is the proper way to say it. But the difference is some of the flavors that I love about that are not necessarily very prominent in the Cristalino.
I get that.
The vanilla, the butteriness.
Cooked agave.
Right,
It's seldom detected.
To me, it seems stripped down compared to the one that we just tried.
On this one, in the Retro Hail, again, I can kind of detect a little of the chocolate you were talking about, but a little less sugar cookie and a little less.
I don't dislike it by any means.
A little less sweet, a little less.
I don't know that I would say I like it better.
It's not bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a little more bite on the tongue.
Is it just me, or is this Cristalino a little bit darker than the other one? It seems like it's got a little bit of a tint to it.
It's not entirely clear.
It's not. Yeah.
What? I wonder why that is.
I guess.
Is this the one you said that they mix in a little bit of the?
Oh yeah, this is very interesting. To make this one, they mix a reposado and an añejo.
Okay, so that probably is where the extra color comes from.
Color.
And maybe where you're picking up a little bit of the chocolate and a little bit of that. I don't know. I like it. I think I would go, if I had to choose one or the other, I think I would choose the Reposado.
Yeah.
I really think
I agree.
I feel like Ian short-poured me on that one, on this one here.
I apologize. I'm apparently getting a call from Waste Management. That's what it says right here on my screen.
You're an important
Waste
mover and
Management.
shaker.
Yeah. It's Tony Soprano calling. Waste Management. We got to take a break. We'll be right back. You are listening to and watching Smoking and Toasting. It's all agave today, my friends. Tequila. Agave.
Maguey.
I love this show. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Show number 420, all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. While Ian pours our first beer, I want to go back to the tequila because Código is becoming, I think, one of the more well-known brands out there. George Strait obviously has something to do with that since he promotes it and stuff. But it's also not an inexpensive tequila. It's a little pricier. I thought maybe you could tell us. I know you know some things about Código. What can you tell us that we might not know about this particular brand?
You already mentioned that George Strait is, of course, an investor and the best ambassador. In fact, he wrote a song about Código, so you can Google it and find it.
So is it called Código?
There's a video. It's called Código Tequila.
Right, so go look for that from George Strait.
Código has been available since 2016.
Okay.
And it's made in distillery located in the lowlands of Jalisco. And this is very interesting because they have the highlands at very high altitudes and the lowlands that they're not so low. They're about 2,600 to 4,000 feet.
Right.
But that creates a little bit of difference. The agaves grown in the lowlands weigh a little less, which is on average about 60 to 110 pounds.
Okay.
So Amatitlán, the town where this tequila is made, is actually called the birth of tequila,
Really?
not tequila Jalisco, but Amatitan.
Yeah, I would have thought it'd be Jalisco.
There is a saying, it says, where everything started, donde todo empezó, and that's Amatitan. Another thing, I don't know if the camera can show the logo.
Oh, yeah, that one.
We'll do it right there.
The logo is very interesting. It has a Jerusalem cross.
So what is a Jerusalem cross? Obviously, we can see the shape of it, but how is that different from...
It was used during the Crusades.
Oh, okay.
And it became part of the town of Amatitan when it was founded by the Spaniards. And the year was 1530. And that's what you see on the bottle. Código 1530.
1530. Very interesting.
I didn't know where that number came from now.
Yeah. So the lowlands of Jalisco have a different soil composition. You know, the soil is a little darker and it has more volcanic rock. So that actually influenced the flavor. And they mentioned that the tequilas from the lowlands are more herbaceous, more earthy, and that they have more peppery flavor.
Now, it's interesting because when you talk about the highlands versus lowlands, you often think of Scotch because with Scotch, Scotch variations and different brands and stuff, the flavors can differ based on whether the distillery is in the highlands or the lowlands of Scotland. But there, it's more about aging than it is about soil.
Well, it's going to be the water and the aging.
Water, the water. That's
the
true.
Water and the aging, because like especially when you're right on the coast, those very coastal ones, you get that coastal, like a little bit of salt in the flavor and things like that. And the ones a little more inland where you have more peat and they smoke the peats and stuff, you get a lot more of that flavor in there. So
yeah, absolutely. Well,
just a couple more things that are interesting. There were 5 families that used to distill this tequila before it became part of the Varo distillery in Amatitan. But for 5 generations, it was called El Tequila Privado, the private tequila, before it became Código. And the other interesting thing is, I think they use yeast in the fermentation process. Some distilleries don't add any additional yeast besides the ones that are already part of the agave, but they do. But they use a local bakery in the town.
They get their yeast from the bakery. Interesting. Wow.
So it's been going on longer than it's been called Código then. It's not they just made this up for this.
Right. It's not some new brand they invented.
I didn't think, honestly, that it was too expensive. I paid for the bottle for the
reposado?
$57.
Okay, so that's not too bad. But if you go for the añejo, though, it gets pricey.
In 2018, it was $59. So it's interesting.
Yeah. We've talked about how much some of our favorite tequila brands have gone up in price. And a little later on in the show, I want to ask you about some of the trends in the industry right now. Is there, for a while, there wasn't enough agave. Now there may be too much agave.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay, so we'll get to that. Do want to do a beer tasting here. Ian has poured our first one. This is from, I started to say our friends. I don't know the people at 903, but we do
I've
like
had enough
their
of their
beers.
beers to where I feel like
Dallas?
I kind of know
That's
them a
Dallas
little bit.
area
It's in
code?
Sherman, Sherman, Texas.
That's the area code up in North Texas.
So, it's a North Texas. Northeast Texas beer. This is their Amber Ale.
11.
Amber is 11. I just called it Amber 11. Is it Amber is 11?
Amber is 11.
So is Amber like a daughter? Or
Amber
a
is
dog?
the cat.
The cat. Okay. Amber is 11. That's,
so on the can it says "Happy Birthday, Amber," and then Amber is 11.
Aw.
So it says, our sweet angel baby Amber is turning 11. Our favorite brewery cat has been with us since the beginning, protecting our brewery with her big naps and boisterous meows. She loves food.
Of course.
Right. She loves food, attention, and our brew crew. And we love her. To celebrate this beloved brewery cat, we've crafted this exquisite Amber Ale. Caramel maltiness meets fruity hops in this mild and delightfully easy ale. Amber's Amber Ale is the cat's meow.
I love kitty cats. I have 5.
You have some cats, yes. I'm more of a dog person,
it
but I've had cats.
It says it pairs with catnip, cardboard boxes, and making biscuits.
You know what making biscuits is?
Yeah.
When they,
they should say it pairs with paper sacks because I've never
Paper
met
sacks, yes.
a cat who didn't love them a paper sack.
So last night because I had garbage coming out this morning, so there was a couple paper bags there that I hadn't taken care of, and just for like about 2 hours, I kept hearing the paper bag rustling because I got 3 cats.
Yeah,
and they were all just
as soon as
around.
one gives it up, the other one grabs it. Yeah. Well, I will tell you immediately, very, very malty, and it strikes me as a beer that you would really like.
I love it right up front. That's quite good.
It's malty enough. It's almost got a little like a Marzen, like a German beer vibe to it.
It's very good.
It's so interesting. It's super malty right up front. But it also has a bizarrely hoppy finish to it. Actually,
yes,
like a little more hop than you would expect.
Gives you hops on the backside,
especially in the color of this.
I'm digging it. We'll talk a little more about it when we come back. Get set for hour 2 of Smoking and Toasting, which means we are not far away from drinking news. Stand by, people of the planet. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Our spirits are agave-based today, and we'll get back to that in just a moment. But just any final thoughts on this beer? Because this Amber is 11 from 903 Brewers. This just seems like something that's right up your alley.
I would love to try that, especially like straight off the tap.
Oh, I bet that's good.
Because I'll tell you, there's a little bit of... there's a little bit in there you can kind of taste the can process slightly. And then it's not bad. It's not, but I would love to taste that absolutely fresh. And I bet it, like, as good as it is out of the can, I bet it's even more amazing right there.
Well, you know what else they could do? If they were to make that can in such a way that maybe the cat changed colors when it got cold, then you'd know your Amber is 11
have
beer
a cold activated
cold.
cat.
Yeah, cold
I'm
activated.
definitely gonna get some because it has a cat.
Yeah. See, it's perfect. So no, that stuff is just really, really good.
The cover art on this is
it's
really
great.
Adorable.
It's great. You gotta love it. It's a cat with a birthday party hat on. What's not to love? Someone explained the difference to me once between cats and dogs. Dogs are excited when we come home to pet them and love on them and feed them, and cats allow us to live with them, and that's the difference.
I gonna know another one.
Yeah.
Dogs have owners. Cats have servants.
Yes, that's so completely true. So completely true.
They train us very well.
I'm scooping this animal's poop.
Yeah, that's right. You wouldn't do that for other animals. You wouldn't do that for like an alpaca. Yeah. Right? That was the craziest animal I could think of.
These darn pellets.
Did you know that most of the ones we have, they found us? All of them actually.
The cats found you.
They arrived.
Totally. Yeah. While Ian's pouring our next spirit, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the status of the agave world right now in the tequila world. It seems like I remember only a few short years ago, we were supposedly dealing with a tequila shortage or a prediction of a tequila shortage. And now it seems like it swung back the other way. Is that right?
Yes. Well, let me tell you what happened then.
Okay.
There was a tequila shortage because the agaves were being prey of bacteria and fungus.
So
and that's the reason because they were only collecting the pops that grow around the base of the plant and planting them. Not anymore. Now at least 10 to 20% of the plantation has to be let bloom and get pollinized by bats. That's something we can talk later. And also
you mentioned that
creates
the bats were incredibly important, I think, like the last time.
That's so interesting because I know my big aloe vera that I call the Kraken, my huge one, it blooms and I'm thinking, well, why does it need to bloom? bloom because it grows little babies around it, but it's because of pollination, right?
And genetics, and it creates stronger plants. Before we just had clones from a mama plant, and they become weaker with time. So that was the problem then. Now we have an explosion, of tequilas, and that worries me too about what is going to happen with all the agaves.
So what's the downside of having more than we need?
Oh, well, first of all, the farmers are suffering because they're being paid cents for their plants rather than pesos. Yeah. That's one thing. And other, they are collecting agaves that are needed for those pollinators, the bats that migrate. There's two different routes of migration between Texas and central Mexico that the bats need the agaves to eat their honey from the flowers.
This is just so interesting.
And it's interesting. The Mexican long-nosed bats that are the pollinators of agaves have been found now in Arizona. And we do have a colony here in Houston under the Waugh Bridge.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Beautiful animals, and I support.
For those of you outside of Houston, that's just just west of downtown, along Memorial Drive at Waugh.
And then there's a huge bat population in the Austin area too. Yeah, it's a big deal to watch the bats come out.
Down in Pearland. I've been down in Pearland, and they have some bridges down there amongst canal that they have for water. And
if you go down there in the evening, right as the sun is setting, you'll see them all come out at once.
It's a very nice experience.
And one time there was this really rich guy who wanted to make a difference in the world and wanted to maybe help solve some criminal cases.
And
a bat flew in his window, and it was an omen. And that's how he.
One time someone threw a bat up to a guy on stage.
Yeah. Oh,
He didn't think it was real, so he bit the head off of it.
And let me tell you just something that is going to blow your mind away.
Okay.
In 2009, we only had 900 different brands of tequila, and not all are bottled in Mexico. Some are bottled in all over Europe and other countries. As of February 1st, 2025, we have 225 brands. 2,225 brands. Can you imagine?
It's more than doubled since then.
It's just crazy.
Well, I know if you're in the tequila aisle, I'm always finding new stuff, and it's fascinating, and it's great for us on the show because we have new things to try.
So for a tequila noob like myself, when I go to the tequila aisle, it's a little bit of analysis paralysis.
I don't
even know what to get.
Just call me.
And of course, they're going to have people who are representatives of a particular brand, and they're going to try to talk you. No, there's very good websites that recommend different tequilas if you ever want recommendations. Of course, there's Tequila Matchmaker, but many, many others. But I like one called the Drinks Geek. Okay, thank you. I like that guy because he has a disclaimer, and he says, these are my best tequilas, but he says, please know that I will receive a small percentage of compensation from the distillery. So
good for him.
Again, it depends. So the best way to appreciate tequilas and know which ones are your favorite is to try them.
Now
try the little, the small bottles and everything.
I've been a tequila fan for years, but it's only been recently that I've sort of broadened out and tried a number of other agave spirits. What's your take on agave spirits that are not tequila? Do you find tequila to be superior to those, or does it just depend on the spirit?
No, I don't know. I couldn't comment much because I don't know much about it. I haven't tasted them. But of course, we have the Bacanora.
Yeah, we're going to taste this right now.
From the state of Sonora. That is made only from Agave augustifolia. Then we have Raicilla, that is made in Jalisco and Nayarit from Agave Maximiliana. And then, of course, we have Tequila and Mezcal And then some people think sotol is similar, but sotol is different. Sotol is made from another plant called Desilirium weberi.
I just want to point out that
And
before
that's agave adjacent, but it's
Yes.
not agave.
It's not agave.
I just want to point out that before she told us all this, she told us she didn't know very much about it. I just like to
Not an expert
like
at
to-
all.
Yeah, not at all. This is why I'm sorry you don't like being called an expert, but if the shoe fits,
This
you know.
is more than
Yes,
enthusiasm.
that's exactly right. So again, this spirit, Ian, tell us again what this is.
Aguamiel,
No, aguamiel is the brand.
Right,
It means,
okay, so
aguamiel means honey water.
Bacanora is the style of drink, and this
So
is
honey one.
Blanco. So I'm assuming since they designate Blanco on this, they have
Maybe.
aged versions, maybe.
Yeah. That's another area I need to explore. All the alternative or other drinks made of
This
agave.
one definitely has a little chocolate on
Wow.
the back.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Now, this honestly makes me think very much of a mezcal. It's smoky, but the smokiness is a little different. I don't know. I don't quite know
Yeah.
how to put it into
You're
words.
right.
It's
a little
smoky
different than a
and
mezcal.
heavy on the mineral.
Yes, it is more of a
Yes.
mineral vibe. So
And I do get the chocolate on this one.
But to me, it tastes very soft. It's
right, it's
pleasant.
kind of
It's
round
not
and
strong.
soft. Yes, yeah, I agree.
But it's not. It's almost like a flowery. There's a floral kind of softness to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the buttery softness that we got with the Conigo.
It's more of a
Conigo.
gin flowery.
It's more of a floral kind of softness. It's really interesting.
In general, are these spirits about the same price as a tequila or a mezcal, or do they have a tendency to be less expensive because they're not, sourced from the one place?
This was incredibly accessible to me, as my brother just bought it and gave it to me. I assume
Free is always
I'm
good.
guessing. I assume this is in the $40-ish range.
Yeah.
I'd have to.
Well, if
reach
you
out
think
to
about it, most tequilas now, even the blancos and some of the reposados, are at least $40.
Is that something available here? I mean, is that something available?
I don't think you can find some of these around here.
Okay.
He specifically. This is. He lives in that Sonora area.
Yeah.
And so he specifically bought these things because it's stuff that I don't think you can find
Okay.
around here.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's probably.
But that's something new for me to learn, right?
But
Yeah,
the way,
exactly.
but
See?
it's interesting because
Even
how
experts
when
have
we
to
go
learn.
into a liquor store here, and it doesn't even matter what liquor store, when we go into a liquor store here in Houston or in the surrounding area, you're going to have a whole section of the whiskey aisle that is Texas whiskeys, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So in Tucson, if you go into the same style of spirits store, you're going to find a section of agave spirits, like
Yeah,
this,
Sonora
you know,
and agave
Yes,
spirits. Yeah,
you'll find like
Interesting.
it's its own thing, and it's very popular there.
But by the way, while we're on the subject of Arizona and then one of my favorite bands in the world is out of Arizona. It's Roger Clyne and the Peacemakers. Roger Clyne was in the band The Refreshments that had a big hit back in the 90s. But Roger Clyne is very his whole thing is very Southwestern. He's in love with Mexico. He sings a lot of songs about Mexico. But the reason I bring it up is for those of you who are tequila fans, check out one of the Roger Clyne and the Peacemakers songs called Jack versus Jose. It's a story of him going into a whiskey bar and ordering tequila and getting into a fight, basically. But it's super fun. I love going
versus Jose.
I love going to
I
their
get it.
shows because there's he'll drink tequila. He'll do a tequila shot before they do the song Mexico, and it's just super fun. So a little fanboy in me coming out there, but he's also a tequila fan, so I totally connect with him. And he's from Arizona, so I'm guessing in that region, because of the influence of Mexico on the state of Arizona, I'm guessing tequila may be the biggest. And tequila is the number 2 selling spirit right now in the United States.
Yeah, you go into a liquor store out in that area, and,
Yeah.
and the tequila section is vast
You would think,
compared to all the other sections. Like down here, you see it's almost always the bourbon.
right. I was going to say,
Right.
you would think by going to Specs or Total Wine here in Houston that bourbon is the best seller, but bourbon is actually or whiskey is actually number 3 behind tequila and
Vodka.
or something?
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
tequila and vodka. In terms of total
sales.
unit sales
Wow.
or ounces or however you want to spin it. So I know we got to take a break here. When we come back, it is time to do another parallel tasting, this time with the Cazadores. And I have to tell you, Ian, I like this. I still can't remember what it's called.
Is it the Bacanora?
The Bacanora. I really do like this, and I will be looking for some of this to make my bar complete. Because after all,
it's nice like this. I want to try it with a little ice, and I'll also want to get my wife on figuring out what she wants to mix with it.
You're like George Strait. He likes his tequila with ice. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Oh, that was nice.
Wow.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And I just want to point out, by the way, during the break, Liliana was very, very much a fan of this Amber is 11 beer from 903 Brewers. You really liked that, didn't you?
Oh, I love it. Mm-hmm.
So I asked you, while Ian's pouring our next side-by-side tasting here, I asked you a little bit about what's going on in the tequila and agave industry right now, and we talked about underproduction and overproduction, but that's not the only forces that are impacting tequila right now. Is that correct?
I know there's many other things happening. Of course, you are hearing now the buzzwords. People talk about artisanal. Even there's a kosher certified tequila. We tasted one.
Certified,
the Código, certified, gluten-free. But
is all tequila gluten-free?
I guess so.
Yeah, I think so.
But some people choose to advertise
I
it.
love when people slap gluten-free on something that has never had gluten ever.
I know.
As if they've done something special by keeping
gluten-free water.
Yeah, that's right.
We also gonna see a lot of the high proof tequilas.
Yeah.
You know, for years tequila has been the standard 80 proof.
Right, and you know, that's already a big deal with whiskeys and bourbons is coming out with these overproofed ones that people, you know, who are real aficionados seem to love.
Yeah.
And so you think we're going to see more of that with tequila too?
Yeah, there's several now in the market. Now, another movement that started some time ago by a couple from New York that love tequila, used to write about tequila, move into tequila. Their names are Grover and Scarlett Sanschagrin. They're the founders of Tequila Matchmaker.
So wait, is this like a dating service for people who like tequila?
No.
Okay.
It's
I was going to say, I mean, I'm married now, but boy, if I had known about that back when I was single, I'd have been like all over that.
No, but they're very interesting people. In 2009, they also founded a website called Taste Tequila. And then in 2020, they began the Additive Free Alliance.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Ooh, let me tell you, there's some things dictated by the NOM or the Norma Oficial Mexicana and the CRT, Consejo Regulador del Tequila.
You taught us about these in some of your previous appearances here.
There's some things that cannot be, people don't have to disclose.
Yeah,
and that is adding caramel coloring, oak extracts that mimic the effects of aging, glycerin, use it to soft the tequila, and the other thing is sugar syrups, agave nectar, corn syrup.
Agave nectar is a big deal.
Cane sugar. So this couple founded this organization, the Additive Free Alliance, and they started in their home doing analysis and giving stickers special to tequilas that were additive free.
Yeah. Oh,
well, let me tell you, sadly, their home was raided by the CRT last year, and they didn't put them in jail or anything, but they took all the laboratory equipment they had at their home, tasting the tequilas for additives, and they're not supposed to give stickers to tequilas.
Interesting.
Anyways,
little government overreach there.
Wow.
I know, but as far as I know, they're still in tequila. They're still tequila enthusiasts, and I guess they're gonna.
So you guys are gonna laugh at me. I poured a round of the Cazadores Añejo.
Is that an Añejo or a Reposado?
It's Añejo.
I poured a round of it.
I've got one.
And then I set myself up another bunch of cups.
Yeah.
and then poured another round.
Oh. So
Not realizing that
let me just say, you're welcome at my house anytime.
Not realizing that I forgot to pour the Cristalino instead. So I have an extra round of the...
You get to be the next bartender for the Christmas party.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you can ask for what you want. You can ask for Cosmopolitan. You're still getting whiskey with ice.
That's right. Well, whiskey with ice is a very cosmopolitan drink.
That's how we do it.
Yeah.
And if you're not feeling like a cocktail, then you get whiskey.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So now, if you're feeling like a cocktail, you're getting tequila. And
Right.
We're going to talk about Cazadores.
Oh,
Cazadores,
this smells beautiful.
So this first one is the añejo, is that
Oh,
right?
yeah. But let me tell you, there's a whole lot of history behind this tequila and a lot of other important points.
Yeah.
Cazadores was first established in 1922. A long time ago.
That's
now,
good.
the Cazadores is made in the highlands of Jalisco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Remember, we talked about
when we
the
talked to
lowlands.
Código, it was the lowlands, yeah.
Now we're going to talk about the town of Arandas.
Mm-hmm.
In there, the elevation goes from 6,000 to 7,200 feet. So the agaves are much, much larger.
Okay.
They can weigh up to 154 pounds.
I've never been to Arandas, but I've been to tacos Arandas.
Taqueria Arandas.
Taqueria
Arandas. I like
yes.
it.
Yes.
So Arandas has cooler temperatures and higher rainfall, and the soil is very rich with minerals. So it's red clay soil. Obviously, some people compare lowlands versus highline tequilas, and they describe different flavors.
Well, I will tell you, so I've just sampled both of these back to back, and I absolutely love the añejo, but the Cristalino has this chocolate on the finish that is a knockout. Mm-hmm. Really good.
Oh.
Your thoughts quickly, Ian?
Oh, I get sugar cookie on the back of the añejo.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a little bit like the other one that I had. I haven't tried the Cristalino yet.
Oh, yeah. Try it and tell me if you get chocolate on the finish. While
Okay.
we're
We
headed
have
to
more
commercial.
interesting things to talk
All right,
about.
hold on to those. We'll do them next, as well as drinking news. It's all coming up. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We'd like to mention, by the way, that our sponsor, our beer sponsor for show beers, is True Anomaly Brewing. And these guys have such great beers. If you are in the greater Houston area, you got to go visit these guys. They're so awesome. Their beers are now available in grocery stores all over town.
Just on the east side of downtown is their tap room as well. Easy to get to.
And they're about to move to a new one over on Navigation, which is going to be very exciting.
It's work in progress.
Yeah, well, when that opens up, we definitely have to start having staff meetings
closer to
there.
my house, too.
Yeah, we'll have to start having Smoking and Toasting meetings there. Do we need to talk about anything? I don't know, but let's meet and we'll figure it out. That will be the plan. So, welcome to the program. We're going to talk a little bit. Oh, speaking of, I just wanted to mention our other sponsor for today. They're not really a sponsor, but it's Annie's Snack Mix, because my wife said, Liliana's there. You're drinking tequila. I got to buy you some things for you guys to eat so you can make it through the show.
Thank you, Marianne.
So far, so good. Ladies and gentlemen, as is our custom during this segment of this program for the last, 150 shows or so, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
Tengo que llevar a mi cocodrilo al veterinario.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. I just want to point out something about language. In English, it's I had to take my gator to the vet. In Spanish, it's what she said. Which is the superior language? Obviously, it's Spanish. That sounded beautiful. It didn't sound like I had to take my gator to the vet. It sounded absolutely beautiful. And it was talking about taking an
It's
alligator.
definitely missing
to
a
a
certain
veterinarian.
hold my beer quality.
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, Drinking News is the segment of the program where we bring you stories that are often, but not always, about drinking, but are always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm convinced that the people who come up with the formulas and fragrances for cologne and for bath accessories, especially those that are for men, have no real idea who their target customer is. I mean, take a couple of top men's fragrances, for example. There's Drakkar Noir, which someone who rides the elevators in my building wears way too much of. And it's described as woody, floral, with lavender, spices, and woods. No, thank you.
And still there when you get off the elevator.
And then there's Gendarme Cologne, which is described as smelling green with citrus and verbena notes, and herbal with a dry down of jasmine and thyme, which seems to mean that you can smell like those bushes that used to line the sidewalk at your grandmother's house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very
The
masculine.
azaleas.
Very masculine, guys. Nice job. I suppose there must be some research that shows that a big percentage of men's fragrances are actually purchased by women and then given to the men as gifts, which will likely wind up at the bottom of our underwear drawer, never to see the light of day again. But I guess that may explain all the floral stuff. But if you want to talk about how to sell fragrant stuff to men, you need to think about what men like. I mean, what is that line from one of our Smoking and Toasting intro songs about whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne?
That's right.
I mean, now you're talking, right? Or
Chris Collins, y'all, look him up on
or you could check out the
SoundCloud.
new release from Instagram and TikTok influencer Hannah Sarr, who has teamed up with a major national company to announce a set of bath bombs for men. You know what bath bombs are, right? They're
my
like
wife is addicted to bath
round balls of soapy fragrance. You drop them in the bathtub when you're about to take a nice soak, and they provide, oils and fragrances for your skin.
They also turn the bath water a pretty color, which is a major component of that.
And for this new product, Hannah Sarr has announced her partnership with none other than Papa John's.
Pop?
Why
For
does
the
everything have to
exciting-
be a pizza these days?
For
Wait,
the
wait.
exciting
Papa John's?
new Papa John's garlic dipping sauce bath bombs for men.
I just want to tell you something. First off, that's going to be horrible because I know there was a candle they tried to push at Christmas that was a pizza flavored candle,
Yeah.
and it just smelled horrible.
It just stunk, yeah.
It was awful.
Well, in their news release, they refer to this as a one-of-a-kind self-care essential. That's in the news release.
If you want to seem like you just got off your shift working over at Olive Garden.
Yeah, now you can smell like the pizza delivery guy anytime. You know how pizza delivery guys always have that I've been in the car with pizza for many, many hours smell? I mean, guys, if you've ever wanted a woman to actually say to you, I could just eat you up, now is your chance. Now is your chance. But our main story in this week's Drinking News is not about pepperoni and sausage bath scents. It's the story of a California man stopped by the California Highway Patrol Police a few short months ago,
Oh, I wish I
speeding,
knew that theme song.
speeding down
yes.
Highway 99 in his $400,000 Rolls Royce Ghost. The cops pulled him over and immediately,
I mean, that's a pretty awesome car.
yes, it is a badass
Yeah.
car.
And I can see Ponch and John right behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
floored.
Woo,
yeah.
The cops pulled him over and immediately noticed a couple of issues. Number one, it appeared that he had been drinking, and he was ultimately arrested for DUI. But the second thing was a bit more unusual. Clinging to the inebriated driver and crawling all over his lap was a 1-month-old spider monkey in a onesie. I'll just give you a moment to picture that.
Monkey. I was completely unprepared for that.
Spider monkeys are considered threatened or endangered, and it is not legal to own one as a pet in California. There was no indication.
They're also, as far as I know, not indigenous to California.
Correct.
Okay.
There was no indication that the man was expecting the monkey to drive, although police believe that it was certainly possible that the animal had been distracting the California man, and that could have been what caused him to drive his expensive luxury car at such an unsafe rate of speed. Wow. The California man was taken to a holding cell, and the monkey was transported to the local animal control facility, where we are told he was treated to a nice bowl of smashed bananas. Officers say he will be ultimately sent to the Oakland Zoo for additional care. Now listen, you may know this, but stories about monkeys are just about my favorite ones ever here on Drinking News. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we need more monkeys more of the time. And
monkeys fling poo.
As I've shared here before, I've always dreamed of having a pet monkey of my very own. So in many ways, I can actually sympathize with the California man in this story, even if I can't condone his breaking the law. But even so, this story has, as Drinking News stories often do, left me inspired in a way that almost always will ultimately cause me to express myself by writing. And the most common iteration of that inspiration is usually a few lines of poetry or prose. So without further ado, and in what may be a violation of my work release, I'd like to share that inspired version with you now, that inspired verse with you now, right here on Smokin' and Toastin'. This is my interpretation of what the speeding Rolls-Royce owner may have said to the officers who pulled him over. I appreciate the poetry music. This is what he may have said, and it goes a little something like this. Yes, I was speeding on the way to my cabana with the radio blasting Manilow's Copacabana. But the reason it's so funky, see, I had to keep telling my monkey, leave me alone. That is not a freaking banana. Reporting live from Animal Control in Northern California, where now that they've fed the monkey, I think they're going to give him a bath in a nice Papa John's garlic dipping sauce bath bomb. My name is Cruz, and that is your
Drinking News, Drinking News. That's our time for Drinking News.
Cheers, y'all.
I mean, if you have a Rolls-Royce Ghost,
yeah,
the first question I have is, why are you driving
It's
it?
almost a $500,000 car.
Well, but
Why wouldn't you be in the back seat
That's the thing.
With the monkey?
with somebody else driving it?
Yeah.
Which would be great. But here's the thing: you have to remember, you can drive with your monkey or drive while you're drinking, but you can't do both because that's not going to work out.
Can't drive while you're drinking with your monkey.
With your drinking with your monkey.
But
yes.
I like Ian's
Drinking,
point.
driving, monkey. Pick two.
I like Ian's point. If you can afford such an expensive car, why don't you have a driver?
Where's your driver?
As long as during that interaction, at one point in time, the driver did look at the officer and said, "Would you like to touch my monkey?"
Well, I was about to say, remember that skit, Touch My Monkey?
I am Dieter.
Touch
Welcome
him,
to
love
Sprockets.
him.
Would you like to touch my monkey?
Yeah. Did they do a Dieter skit on the 50th?
They did not. Oh, it was so great. I
haven't watched yet. Terry texted me last night that he was watching.
I saw that. I'll have to
The one
watch that
thing,
too.
without spoiling it for y'all, the one thing I will say that was wonderful that they did last night was they showed Schiller's Reel, which is a wonderful. It was almost like John Belushi's way of doing a bit that he recorded when he was alive, but now it's really awesome. It was from the 78 season where he went and he was an old man and he says the line, "They all thought I'd be the first to go," which he was.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
And
pretty
then
poignant.
at the end, it shows him dancing on the graves of the other six cast members of it. And he says, "I like to dance." And he's dancing on the graves of the other six cast members. And all but Gilda, of course, were watching, I guess. Dan Aykroyd, I didn't see him there, but all the other ones, Lorraine, Chevy Chase, Garrett Morris were all there. Yeah.
I saw
Jane
that.
Curtin,
I saw that.
It was wonderful.
Yeah,
It was
well,
wonderful.
I'm looking forward to watching it on Peacock.
Yes, Peacock. Yes.
Thank you. So I just wanted to mention before we go on to this next beer that I'm absolutely loving both the Añejo and the Cristalino on this
They're both quite good.
Cazadores. These are both really good.
Oh, you are already enjoying them. Good.
Yes, yes.
I've already almost enjoyed it all.
Yeah,
We need to catch up with you.
But again, though, I
enjoying
find myself more attracted to the Añejo versus the Cristalino.
It still feels like there's a little more flavor, which makes sense given what Liliana has told us about the process.
The
right?
Cristalino has a beautiful back section of the palate with the big chocolate and everything else that it has going on.
It does have big chocolate.
But it's a little thin up front.
Agreed. But I will say, though, the back end, the chocolate on the back end, makes this one of my favorite Cristalinos that I've ever tasted. It just feels like it has a little more flavor.
It is really chocolatey.
Yeah.
Chocolatey and a little buttery even.
You know, Cazadores is made in the highlands of Jalisco. So the flavors are all
Because they have the bigger agaves, right?
often described as fruitier, floral, and sweeter with a much higher sugar content.
It
and
does taste a little sweeter, yeah.
This is due to the cooler climate and the red clay soil. But let me tell you a couple of things very interesting about Cazadores. If we can show the bottle, this is an oldie. Originally started in 1922. So
I'll just mention when I go to my specs in Midtown, Cazadores is not one that they have on the shelf up at eye level. It's down a little ways.
I don't know why.
It's not bottom shelf, but it's like down a little ways on the shelves, and it always makes me think, oh, well, this must be considered a more pedestrian tequila, but this is not at all.
It's not too expensive. It's $43.99. But let me tell you, there's a lot of interesting things about this tequila that are different. But I love the logo, which is the stag. That is a symbol of wisdom and knowledge and confidence.
Yeah, confidence, for sure.
And you know, their agaves are not aged like up to 12 years. They're actually harvested between 6 and 8 years. And the most interesting thing about this is they didn't follow the rule. They don't cook the piñas first and then extract the juice. They extract the juice of the piñas first. That's the first step.
Does that give them more juice, or
they claim they can extract as much as 99% of the juice of and then they cook the agua miel or the sweet water.
I'm just so glad that way back in history somebody figured out how to do this. You know what I mean? I'm just so happy about this fact.
And another thing, you wouldn't believe it, very interesting that I found out recently, is that when they're doing the fermentation place, which is it takes place before the distillation,
right?
They play Mozart music.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Inside the distillery, because they feel that creates a much better tasting tequila.
I do love Mozart as a composer, cool. But my Mozart, affinity really came like well past when I should have been into classical music. It came from watching the movie Amadeus, and I just loved the music, and I loved Tom Hulse. But to this day, anytime I put on something by Mozart, at the end I want to go, because that's what he does in the movie. And it's a brilliant movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We're going to take a break. We got another beer to taste, and I want to taste. If we can cram all of this into this last segment, I really want to taste this Mezquila from Sammy Hagar and Guy Fieri. So we'll do that next. It is Smoking and Toasted. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasted. I just want to say, by the way, this is the 420th show. So we've done now 420 of these. And I have to say, the best ones are the ones where we just don't have time to get to everything. And that's the way today's show has been. So you caught us on a good one, my friends. Thank you for listening. Our guest, Liliana Rodriguez, she is, we call her our agave expert. She, is very humble and gracious and thinks she's not an expert. But seriously, you know more about tequila than anyone I've ever met. And I've met people from Padron and Cuervo, and like more than those guys do. So,
And you don't know how I became interested in it, right?
I don't think I do. No.
Okay, I used to teach microbiology at UT Medical School, and then I got invited to teach in Guadalajara. So
Right.
for
So-
10,
so you taught in
10
Mexico. I
years,
knew that,
For
yeah.
10 years, I went there, and then I was able to explore all the towns around Guadalajara, and of course, my favorite was Tequila.
And
Oh,
I just want to mention at the party that I was invited to at Liliana's house, I met her old roommate, and I have asked her to come on a future show and just tell old roommate stories about Liliana, which I think will be a lot of fun. So we'll drink a lot of tequila on that as well.
Get the tea there.
Speaking of drinking, we poured a beer last segment. We didn't get to it. Ian, this is the double dry hopped IPA, correct?
It is Roses by the Stairs,
Is the name of the brewing company.
roller coaster favorite ride.
I love this on the nose. It's very very fruity and citrusy.
Oh, yeah.
On the nose, it's really wonderful.
Muteca, Simcoe Cryo, Mosaic Cryo,
Oh, love
Citra
it.
Dynaboost.
This is wonderful. You can get one of the things that Citra became such a popular.
This is from
hop.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, thank you for that. The Citra became such a popular strain of hops during the hazy era when hazies and New England IPAs were exploding. But what I like about this is it doesn't just have that Citra taste. It blends in these other hops and gives it a little bit of funkiness, which I really like. Wow.
Is Roses by the Stairs, is that a lyric from a Stones song or something?
No, it sounds like a song and title from like a title and artist from from the 80s.
Or like a really like hair
Haircut 100.
hair metal band,
Yeah. Now, so if this is from Phoenix, then shout out to the Flagstaff listeners. We the thing about it is that this has been a very Southwest centric show. Then,
So when I search Roses by the Stairs just on Google, what I mostly get is this brewery. So if there are song lyrics, it must not be from a hugely well-known song.
It just sounds like a song
It
lyric.
just
It
sounds
does,
like it,
doesn't
but
it?
I
It
don't
does. It
think
sounds like
there
it.
is.
Well,
I thought so.
I love this beer. This, of course, I'm not an IPA guy. I have a tendency to like IPAs, but to me, this is just so quaffable and wonderful.
Very
It's absolutely-
citrusy.
Yes, extremely citrusy. But it's got those other hops, like what's it, Mosaic and what else is it?
It's an interesting thing. Well, so it's Mosaic, Simcoe Cryo, Mosaic Cryo. Oh,
So
sorry,
Sim-
Muteca,
Yeah.
Moteka, something. Yeah,
easy for you
whatever
to
you
say.
say.
Well-
Citra Dynaboost is the last one.
So Simcoe is a very interesting and kind of an odd hop, and that's I think a little bit of what
Simcoe
I'm tasting.
can add a little bit of a funk to the aftertaste that
and
I like.
and I like that. Yeah,
And I put
Which keeps us-
Dynaboost in my car the other day.
That's right. I used to watch the Dynaboost cartoon on Saturday morning when I was a kid. All right, so as much as I love this, we have limited time here. I want to move on to the mezquila. So I love Sammy Hagar. I've always loved him. We'll get into a David Lee Roth versus Sammy Hagar debate another time because we don't have time right now.
They're both good in their own rights.
But yeah, I've always loved Sammy, and I loved his original tequila, the Cabo Wabo tequila, and it was wonderful. He sold that company, and then he and Guy Fieri launched Santo together. They also have some rums that are very interesting, but Santo is their next try at Sammy's next try at tequila. And this I thought was particularly interesting because it is supposedly a blend
Wow.
of mezcal and tequila.
Can I say-
so I think this is either going to be great or ridiculously bad.
On the nose, you can smell there's both
smells
mezcal
great.
and tequila. Like you can
Well, you're
smell
totally
both.
right, Terry. You can get a little of the
This
smokiness.
might be my favorite
and a little of
nose
the
out of
agave.
the
a
day.
little bit of
Wow.
both on there. It's amazing. I didn't think that would
let's
happen.
see if it follows through on the palate.
As far as I know, this might be the first mix.
As far as I know,
yeah,
I like this.
Oh.
Oh,
I like this a lot,
there's a super kiss of smoke. There's a huge amount of minerality.
but it's not
And there's a
nearly
sweetness.
as smoky as what you would
Yes.
expect from a full mezcal, right? It's just got
Wow.
that little bit of hint.
There's a little
smoke.
tobacco-y note to it as well.
Yes, it is almost more like a tobacco note than a smoky note.
The smoky and the pepper both come through.
I am very impressed. To be honest, I thought this was going to be a little gimmicky. Not that I don't trust Sammy, but I thought it was going to be, this will be interesting and because it's a combo. But I didn't expect to love it, and I love it.
Stuck in my head.
Wow! The best part of that whole song though is the beginning where Eddie makes the drill sound on his guitar. It's awesome. Yes. It's awesome.
Well, I'm not ready to say I like it very much.
That's
Can I
interesting.
think about it?
Yeah.
Yes,
you can think about it. But
you have another 45 seconds.
What is it? What is it that gives you pause?
Well, I guess again, there's a mix of flavors here that I'm not familiar with. It's my first time.
See, it's a mix of, it really is, but that's what's amazing about this is that it seems to me that if you were to put the two together, it would come up with a flavor, but it seems like when they put this together, it holds both flavors true, so you taste both flavors prominently.
I can see the commercial now. It's Sammy and Guy Fieri, and he goes, "Hey, you got mezcal in my tequila," and the other guy goes, "Hey, you got tequila in my mezcal."
For you audio geeks out there, this runs in series instead of in. I'm sorry, it runs in parallel instead of in series.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It is a little strong for me.
Okay, that's interesting.
What is the ABV on it?
I think it's just 80 proof, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So it is. It does come. It's a little hot. Yeah, I agree.
Well, we will spend some more time working on this, and Liliana, the next time you are on, we'll discuss it in more detail because there's always so much to talk about when you're here, and that's why we love having you on the show. Docs may think the ratings spike when he's on, but the real spike is when we get Liliana on the show.
Thank you so much,
we love her, and thank you so much for doing this. And I know you've got so much more you can school us on, so we'll have you back again whenever you can, and we'll do that again.
I appreciate that.
Next week, our old friend Trenton Smith from Oliva Cigars will join us, and we'll be on location at Maduro's.
Yes, Maduro's Lounge in Webster, Texas.
Super excited about all of that, and we'll be smoking on the show, which is always a pleasure. We can't do that in the studio here, so thank you again, Liliana. You are a national treasure. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you.
So have a great week, my friends, and cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.
It's that guy.